Use the side aisle, please. Families in first row. Use the side aisle, please. Families in the first row.
Would you like to greet the families before services? Now would be the opportunity. If not, we can certainly take a seat. I also have more.
side aisle, please. Families in the first row. Yeah, you can go pay your respects. Just use the side aisle seated in the first row. Morning, Rabbi. How are you? Good. Use the side aisle, please. Families in the first row. Use the side aisle, please. Family seated in the first row. Use the side aisle, please. Use the side aisle, please. Families in the first row. Use the side aisle, please. Use the side aisle, please. Families in the first row. such a pain. Just gotta wait until they came in, Ken. Use the side out, please. Families in the first row.
You want to get in front of me, Aaron? You want, all right. I'm right here. I can't walk next to you. I'm going to get Brandy.
Use the side aisle, please. Families in the first row.
Gotta cut his tie, his son's tie.
Yeah, I have the slightly longer one if you want.
That's all right.
me see if I can get her to go to sleep.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our funeral service, I'm going to ask if we can all silence or quiet all cell phones, electronic devices. Thank you very much.
Adonai, Madam Vateda Ehu, Ben Enosh Vatechashvehu, Adam Lahem Dama, Yamav Kitzelover, Baboker Yatzitz V'chalav, La'erev Yimolel V'yavesh, Tashev Enosh Ad Daka, V'atomer Shuv B'nei Adam, Lu Chachmu Yaskilu Zot Yavidu La'acharitam, Ki lo v'moto yikach hakol, Lo yered acharav kevodo. Shmartam u'ra'ei yashar, Ki acharit le'ish shalom, Hodeh Adonai nefesh ha'adav, V'lo yeshmu kol hachosim bo. The psalmist asks God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath, our days like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed and in the evening fades, withers. You cause us to revert to dust, saying, Shuvu v'nei Adam, return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood where we were going. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They will have peace. God, you redeem us, and none who trust in you, we pray, shall be desolate. It seems appropriate in these days before Sukkot to quote the author of Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, who wrote, L'kol zman l'kol chefetz tachat hashamayim. A season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, including loss. In his attempt to create such a template for order in our unpredictable, Kohelet may be right in his assessment that there is a time for every experience, even death. However, even when we know death comes after a long and full life, still the ache of sorrow is no less real. It is deserving of acknowledgement, deserving of consolation. Jews have sought consolation throughout the millennia from the most ancient works of poetry, our Psalms. Thus we have opened and continue with these poems. I invite you, if you would like, to feel free to join me in the English of Psalm 23. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. We have an understanding of our own biology that is better than that of any preceding generation. We have seized our enhanced appreciation of physics to travel to the moon, send satellites beyond our solar system, even come up with powerful vaccines during a pandemic. And yet, despite Kohelet's attempt at creating and imposing order, with every secret revealed, the marvels and mysteries of our world grow deeper. He even acknowledged, Kohelet, that no one has authority over the life breath. Perhaps it is in knowing our own limitations and in recognizing what is simply beyond comprehension that we can become closest to God. Just as we draw comfort from ancient poems, perhaps too from more modern ones, this by Rabbi Alvin Fine, a 20th century rabbi and writer. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Leidahi reshit uvtirat tachlit, v'hachayim k'masahem aliyah kedosha. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage from birth to death, to life we pray everlasting. Over 93 years ago, Jack Herring began his sacred journey through life. And today we are gathered to honor his memory and accompany him to his final resting place. If you had asked Jack what made his life complete, he would have answered his family. Bobby, his beloved wife and life partner of close to 70 years, 7 decades. His cherished children and their spouses, Andy and Jim, Marcy and Randy, Rav Chaim and Terry, and Amy and Morris. His treasured grandchildren, Mark, Jeffrey, Lauren, Matt, Adam, Avi, Tamar, Elise, and Daniel. I hope I didn't miss anyone. And of course, his great-grandchildren, Addison, Samuel, Sienna, Noam, Liba, Orly, and Ava. Because of you, all of you, Jack's life was full. You gave him a sense of shleimut, of wholeness. his cup indeed overflowed. So how appropriate that we now call upon a couple of his grandchildren, Adam and Lauren, to offer words of memory, and his son, Rav Chaim, to offer the chesped, a loving eulogy in memory of his father.
Did you hear the one about my sisters and I said to each other last night that it kind of feels like Dad should be here. He's got a captive audience. And you know that he would be telling a few jokes which would make Mom's eyes roll and shake her head vigorously back and forth. But our father, Jack Herring, was by far the wealthiest man whom I've ever met. A first-century sage by the name of Ben Zoma asked, Ezehu Ashir Hasameach B'chelko. Who is wealthy? The one who rejoices in his lot, in his portion. And doesn't this describe Dad to a T? Never regretting what he lost, but always being grateful for what he had, taking each day with joy and with gladness. And it's so surreal that just 48 hours ago, my sisters called. They had been reciting the Unatana Tokef when Dad drew his last breath. B'Rosh Hashanah yikatevum u'v'yom Tzom Kippur yechatemu Kama yavrum v'chama yibareun mi yichya mi yamut mi yityasar mi yitoraf mi yishalev u'mi yishaket mi yanua u'mi yanuach. On Rosh Hashanah it is inscribed, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed. How many shall pass away and how many shall be born? Who shall live and who shall die? Who in good time, who by an untimely death? Who shall have rest and who wander? Who shall be at peace and who pursued? Who serene and who tormented? The sadness that we all feel over our Dad is deep and wide after 93 full and rich years of life. But I know that Dad would want us to focus on the different words in the Unatana Tokef in this prayer. Who shall be at rest? Who shall be serene? Who shall be at peace? Our sadness is easier to bear because of the struggle that Dad endured over the last few weeks. Now, some of you still remember that Dad was born in West Philly on Pemberton Street to Meyer and Esther Herring, and of course he had one dear brother, Uncle Herman. Nana wasn't well, Pappy worked hard, and Dad learned his way around the kitchen and how to help around the house at a young age. When Dad and Uncle Herman were young, several times each week they would go to the trolley to meet their father coming home late from work. And even though there was a 5-year difference in age between the two of them, you know, not all children 5 years apart are that close. They were close then, and they remained so throughout their lives. When Uncle Herman married, Annie Lane was not a sister-in-law, but a sister. For one thing was always true about Dad. Whether born into or married into, family was family. There were no distinctions. Mom, when Andy and Marcy and Amy and I were sitting around the table yesterday, reminiscing about how you and Dad met, Marcy remembered some of the details, that you were on a double date, but your date wasn't Dad. And Dad's date wasn't yours, but you weren't apparently so interested in the person whom you were dating, and Dad was more interested in you. So by the age of 20 for you and 23 for Dad, you were married, which led to a 70-year lifelong romance. You weren't just some cute older couple. You were a couple that inspired us because your love blossomed each day and grew even deeper. You offered all of us, and so many, a glimpse of what a long, loving marriage could be. And after years of hard work, just the simple but pure joy of being together every day. As Dad embraced Mom's family as his own, they embraced him as a son and a brother-in-law, and Dad quickly became a full member of the Bader-Weinberg clan. Uncle Harry and Uncle Boo, sometimes we used to say, especially with Uncle Boo, they were like girls. You know, they talked every single day. And we shared a summer home in Atlantic City with the Weinbergs for years, went on family vacations with Uncle Harry, speeding ahead in the Vanguard because he didn't like to look at his speedometer. Dad saying, Harry, you're going too fast. And then talking on the walkie-talkies, breaker, breaker, to try and make sure that we were all on the same path. Shabbat dinner at Nan and Pop's, Rosh Hashanah with the Baders and the Herrings and the Weinbergs. You know, we all had a very privileged childhood because it was so rich in family relationships. The nieces and nephews and great-nieces and great-nephews who are here and others who are on Zoom, we know how much you're going to miss your beloved Uncle Jack and how much you loved him. So, you know, we're getting up there in age ourselves as kids. It was wonderful going down memory lane trying to think of what our childhood was like, right? It was the penny game during the year, right? And the walnut game during Pesach. Legendary Philip and Rosie stories. And Dad, you know, an early adopter of technology. Marcy reminded me again, those bright, blinding lights, you know, trying to say smile when you can't even see where the camera was. You know, the color television set and books from Random House that he bought at the RCA store, the flexible flyer sled, silver dollars, coin collection, baths before dinner, snacks after dinner, and by the way, we had some of the best science fair experiments in the school. Remember? I got in trouble one time because Dad taught me about the conduction of electricity, and the judge shocked himself, and Judge was not happy. I think I only got honorary mention that year. Dad took pride in working on the Aegis combat system developed by RCA. And, you know, for someone who graduated high school, Bach Technical School in electronics, and then got his real electronic education through the Army, then becoming a quality control technician, and later a quality control manager at RCA and CSC, he went really far. And he determined how far he wanted to go. He could have gone further. But I'll tell you, when we watched the antenna of the lunar rover opening up during the moon landing that Dad had helped to work on, that iconic picture that you may remember now from All Mankind Again, we were just so proud that our dad had been a part of that. And not long ago, I was having breakfast with Mom and Dad, and a coworker of Dad's called. Now, he's been retired. He had been retired for about 28 years. And she still called to say hello. I think they missed him as Toastmaster at RCA and CSC because nobody was a master of ceremonies like him. When each of us married, Dad loved our spouses, And Terry is another daughter, and Jim and Morris and Randy. I know how much Dad meant to you, but what you meant to him, how you helped him, especially during these times, I don't have any words for that. And now it's going to get really hard because my sisters are unparalleled. I mean, I just haven't seen anybody do what they've done. Amy, you said you'd quit work before Mom or Dad had to leave home. And you and Morris, for you, Morris, were Amy's partner in all decisions about Mom and Dad. You made Mom and Dad your neighbors. You gave them a separate entrance. You created space for them to have a home, a meaningful, purposeful home. We never doubted that you meant it when you said that you would quit work. And even in those most difficult of times, you and Morris never wavered. When you wouldn't accept thanks when anybody mentioned how generous and loving you were to Mom and Dad, but to be children and caregivers is a transition into a role balancing love and dignity, autonomy and safety that requires exquisite sensitivity. So, Marcy and Randy, I couldn't believe it when I saw a picture not too long ago of Mom and Dad at a NASCAR racing track. I was just afraid that Dad might have wanted to go behind the wheel because he loved to drive. But vacations, Shabbat dinners, movies, shows, shopping, Marcy, you get to make people relax. That's your gift. And to laugh. And both were needed so much during this very difficult time. So I found out that Andy and Jim had an official title of social directors. So for about 25 years, Mom and Dad stayed with Andy and Jim down the shore, which you know how much they loved. Casinos, day trips on the way to camps, Disney World, sharing a room together, Hershey, Pennsylvania, Whiteface Mountain in Vermont, camp visits that became extended to vacations. Jim would come home tired from work, and Dad would say, "So what are we doing tonight?" And it was off to the casinos. It didn't matter how old he was, he could run. And those block parties. I timed one of our family visits. I'd heard about them. I had to see it. And I'm not sure if I could still believe it after I saw it. But they were quite amazing. You know, Dad would always say, "I don't know what Mom and I did to deserve such wonderful children." And by that he meant equally Jim, Randy, Morris, and Terry. But Mom, we don't know what we did to deserve such wonderful parents. So I have a question for all of the grandchildren. How did Zadie lose his hair? Well, right? Well, we all know that he was in a foxhole during the war, and a shell came and it just whoosh, right off. Right? I think at least one or two of you cut your hair because you felt so badly for Zadie. And I remember one picture where I think he taped it on his head. As a grandfather, one of the amazing gifts of retirement was being involved in the lives of all of his grandchildren, from weddings to trumpet concerts, baby namings, visits at summer camps, graduations. You know, Zadie was the kind of grandfather that got down on his hands and knees and he played. It's not unusual for a Zadie to want to be with his grandchildren, but for grandchildren, when young and when old, to want to be with their Zadie, well, that really tells you something about his relationship with you. So here's something that we're still puzzling over. Grandchildren, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. With Dad's diet, how did he live so long? It was death-defying. We marveled at it, and I think we all envied it too, you know? My sisters and I have two kinds of photos, and we have hundreds of them. One is with Dad, you know, big, broad smile with a short stack of pancakes or Belgian waffles with whipped cream piled up to here or 3 scoops of chocolate ice cream. But the other one is more like this. And that's when he's trying to decide, what cookie do I want? What donut do I want? What tasty cake? Or, well, I guess there's always room for Andy's Moon cookies. Sugar, salt, whole milk, butter, red meat, lots of chocolate, no vegetables or fruit, and no exercise or sports. Defies all medical science. You know, there's just so much more that I could say about my sisters and my brothers, how they adapted wherever mom and dad were to keep them with dignity, with comfort, with security on so many levels. I think Randy and Morris were like electronic elves or something that always seemed to know what to do. Took a lot of other people to help. I see Brenda and Monique, who I know you're grieving because you're family and you know what that means, and you gave Dad so much care and us so much comfort, and we did it lovingly, and we love you for that, so thank you. The people at Visiting Angels and Compassus, we all know how difficult it is to find really excellent care, skilled care, people that will really care for you in the way that you want your parents cared for. And as I said, please come to Shiva, send a story. There's so much more that we can say about Dad, his synagogue and Jewish involvement that evolved over the years with a little nudge or two from Mom, the close friends that are here and that they had for so many years through the shul and the mystery club. And I hope you'll share with us. So here's a few things to remember. I call them Zadie Zingers as we finish up. Dad would say, I check on the elderly every morning. I'd say, Bob, how are you? And Mom would say, good. Mom would say, Jack, how are you? And Dad would say, good. He said, okay, I checked on the elderly. Now we can get started. I was wounded during the war. I fell off a bar stool. I left the States when I was in the service. I was 50 feet high up on an electrical tower. These are just a few Zadie Zingers, and now I am sure that he's got a heavenly audience. Dad, we're going to miss you so much. And the inevitable firsts without Dad are going to be really hard. But I think of what our classical rabbi said about our ancestor Jacob, Yaakov, whose name Dad shared. Yaakov Avinu Lomet, our ancestor Jacob, did not die, just as his children are living and flourishing today. Ahu b'chayim, so too is he alive in all of our hearts. Yehi zichro baruch. May the many memories that we have of Jack Herring, of Yaakov ben Meir Esther, remain with us as a source of inspiration and blessing. Amen.
My Zadie was a true mensch. He was kind, he was funny, and he loved his family dearly. He somehow knew the answers to everything. It didn't matter what the subject was, but if you had a question, he knew the answer. He was a hard worker, spending years working at RCA and serving in the Army. He was lucky to enjoy a long and fulfilling retirement. He knew more jokes than anyone I know. While most of the jokes were inappropriate, they were always entertaining. And if you knew him, you wouldn't be surprised that he specifically requested that his eulogy include someone either saying that he was shot by a jealous husband or that his parachute didn't open. If you knew my Zadie, you knew about what he liked to eat. Sticky buns, cake, and other sweet treats were favorites. Tongue sandwiches, brisket, drumsticks, and matzo meal latkes. He was so excited to open the oven and check on the turkey every Thanksgiving. I can't imagine how many turkeys and briskets he carved in his lifetime. More than anything in the world, my Zadie loved his family. Married almost 70 years, my Bubby was his whole world. He treasured spending time with his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. For as far back as I can remember, I spent every holiday at milestone event with my grandparents. I remember playing the penny game on the steps in Overbrook Park, the house which had plastic covers on the white couches, and sitting on the trundle bed with our eyes closed while Zadie dropped the beds down to see how high up in the air we could fly. Remember summers at the beach house in Atlantic City, days on the beach, Friday night dinners with a bubby roast and a challah from Rose Zadewood. They came with us on my first trip to Disney World, where Zadie particularly enjoyed the biggest turkey legs you could ever imagine. I was so lucky to have Bubby and Zadie spend so many summers staying with us from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And he knew his way around every casino in Atlantic City, and he could run to every slot machine. Zadie had told all of the grandkids that he was bald from being in the war when he was in a foxhole, and that shell zoomed right overhead and took the hair off of his head. And for so many years, many of us really believed him. And of course, we all loved his Philip and Rosie stories. I am so glad that he was able to watch his grandchildren celebrate milestones. He was at all of our graduations, weddings, celebrations, and has watched his great-grandchildren grow. While we will undoubtedly miss him every day, I am thankful that I got to spend 35 years with him, creating a lifetime of memories, and that my children got to know him and spend time with him. I can speak on behalf of his 9 grandchildren and his 7 great-grandchildren when I say that Zadie, may your memory be a blessing. We will miss you and remember you always.
I'll try and keep it short. I think everyone's already taken a lot of my good material, but everyone knows my Zadie, Jack, to some of you, lit up every room that he went into, every family gathering. He always had a joke ready and a warm smile, no matter the event. The jokes weren't always appropriate, as you now know. You knew it was going to be a good one or a bad one when Bub got mad before he even started the joke or got to the punchline. But the smile and the warmth that he extended to everyone, whether you'd known him all your life or just met him, was always genuine. But today I think that Zadie would understand if we aren't so quick to smile, for the world already feels a little less bright without him in it. But I'm also going to carry that warmth with me as part of his legacy. And I hope that everyone will also do the same as we remember my grandfather, our Zadie, Dad, Uncle Jack, always. And then one quick little story was not long after he passed, I found myself standing in his bedroom, trying to comprehend the profound loss that our family was about to experience. And that's when I noticed all of the pictures. Every inch of available space was occupied by a photo. Some were taken more than 20 years ago, others just this past year. But the thread that ties these pictures together, old and new, is family. He loved his family more than anything. His mother and his father, his brother, his children, his great-grandchildren, his regular grandchildren. But the person he reserved the most love for, until his final breath, was his wife of almost 70 years, our Bubby. And I have no doubt in my mind that you were the last thing he was thinking of. So on behalf of all the grandkids, we just want to thank everyone for coming out. It means a lot to us, and it would sure mean a lot to him. So, thank you guys.
Rabbinic tradition teaches us that the tears shed at the passing of an Adam Kasher are so precious to God that God counts each and every one of them and stores them in a divine treasure house. I did not have the honor or pleasure of meeting Jack Herring, although after listening to his family, I wish I had. What do the rabbis mean by an Adam Kasher? It's a familiar word, kosher. They don't say Adam Chashuv, an important person, or Adam Gadol, a great person. When they use the word kasher, connected to a human being, it implies integrity, goodness, a life lived in the spirit of Judaism. It includes a life of involvement and devotion to family, and of course a reverence to God. We've heard indeed that Jack Herring was indeed an Adam Kasher, and I expect God's treasure house is overflowing with tears today. 93 and a half years, Jack Herring was blessed with length of days for sure. So many that it will be hard for his loved ones to imagine a world without his physical presence. And indeed, to the living, death is a wound. Its name is grief, its companion loneliness. Whenever it comes, whatever its guise, even when there are no tears, death is a wound. But the author who penned these words also reminds us that death belongs to life. As night belongs to day, as darkness belongs to light, as shadows belong to substance, as a fallen leaf to the tree, death belongs to life. Jewish tradition is clear. It is not our purpose to live forever. It is only our purpose to live. Merit comes not from the number of years, days, weeks. Rather, merit comes from living however many years we have with goodness and integrity. Yes, Jack's life was also long, but its merit comes from the incredible goodness, integrity, kindness, generosity that he extended into the world. One look at his family, at his children specifically, the incredible support, care, love, the kavod, the honor they have extended to their parents. And we gain a window into that inherent goodness that must have been modeled in their home. May we all be inspired by that goodness. May we live by Jack's example of kindness, generosity, his sense of humor, even the off-color parts of his sense of humor, his eagerness for life, to engage with his family, and of course, devotion and love to his family. By doing so, we ensure that Jack's memory and legacy will indeed endure as a blessing. I invite all present to rise in body, mind, and or spirit for the traditional words of El Mole, our memorial prayer. El Mole Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר רקיע מזהירים, את נשמת יעקב בן מאיר ואסתר, שהלך לעולמו, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to the soul of Jack Herring, who has now entered eternity. May his rest be in paradise. O God of mercy, let him find refuge forever in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance, and may he always rest in peace, as again we say, Amen. You may be seated. Interment will follow immediately following the service at Crescent Memorial Park. The family will be in mourning at the home of Amy and Mars Goldstein, 303 T. Rose Lane in Cherry Hill. They will sit Shiva immediately following burial and continue until the start of Shabbat. They will then resume the Motzei Shabbat after sundown on Saturday until 9 a.m. Sunday morning. And as Jack's son has already indicated, your presence and the stories and the memories you have to share would be so greatly appreciated by the family.
May we have the pallbearers, please? And we would ask if you would all rise once more, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll ask everyone if you could kindly just take seats for just a moment, please.
Just right at the side aisle. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, through the archway to the left. Okay? Hey, Ben, you want to see the family?
I'm just gonna go back and
Yeah.
let them see that I'm here, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on?
What's that?
What's going on?
Nothing yet. We just have this and then the memorial service for Sunday.